The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, we're on the air every Saturday from 4 to 5. And boy, are we happy about it. Really fun show. We have two great guests coming up. All of our guests really are very good. They're all people I know and people with whom I'm friends. And they speak very well. They know what they're talking about. So it's very good sports conversation, and we will get to our first guest in, X number of minutes. If you're wondering about the Yankees, they lost today. They were being shut out by Matthew Boyd, and it was 5-0, and they went to the ninth inning, and because people aren't allowed to pitch 9 innings anymore, and they brought in some dude from the bullpen. Judge hit a 2-run home run. Bellinger hit a double, and Judge hit a 2-run home run. So the Cubs then got a little nervous, and they brought in a young pitcher named Daniel Palencia, and he can really throw. And he came in and retired the side, and the Cubbies won it 5-2, so they even the series a game apiece. The rubber game will be tomorrow, and that is the last game of the nominal first half of the year. I'll explain why I said nominal. It's the word. The Mets are about ready to play in Kansas City, and when you look at the Mets and the Yankees, I think the Mets have a better chance. They're only a half game out, and that's not why I think that. Yankees are 2 games out. But the Yankees have some holes that they'll have to try to fill by the time the trade deadline is over. Now, the trade deadline, what is today? July 12th, right? The trade deadline is only at the end of July. So we have a very busy 3 weeks. The Yankees, of course, absolutely need a third baseman. They did sign a third baseman named Jeimer Candelario. He's been with a bunch of teams. He has power, and he plays third base okay. He doesn't hit much, but the Yankees aren't getting anything out of it right now. They may bring up Candelario. I have no idea how he's doing in the minor leagues, but he's been a regular in the American League for several years. The Mets are getting back Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea. And so with David Peterson and Kodai Senga and Clay Holmes, on paper, that's a very good starting 5. And we know how they have the closer in Diaz. So I think they're in pretty good shape. Maybe they'll look around for someone or something that can help them. But the Yankees are the ones who really need help. And, it's very tough for Brian Cashman. Well, no one said it was going to be an easy job. But just think of this, because of the extra team now allowed in the wild card, 7 teams in each league. So there are a lot of teams they're on the outskirts, but only by a few games. So it's going to be even tougher, I think, to get quality players. And then Cash has to look at the bullpen. The Yankees really need bullpen help. And I can't imagine teams simply giving away if you have a good relief pitcher, keep him. Because that's a big part of baseball, because they don't let the pitchers face the opposition for the third time when they go around. And at times, the third time around, they usually take the pitcher out. So you need bullpen. And in every game, you might need 3 guys who can really pitch out of the bullpen. So, that's going to be a big problem for Brian Cashman to shake some relief pitcher or some third baseman free from some team. I don't see exactly how it's going to happen. Moving on other subjects, Washington, it comes to a time when you lose, and you lose and it goes on for a few years. And even if you don't think the manager is doing a bad job, you fire him because you can't fire all the players, and firing him makes the fans believe that you really care and you really want to make a move. They do care. Winning brings in more money. I'm sorry, but that's, it's a business. It's a business. Anyway, so Washington fired their manager, Dave Martinez, and their general manager, Mike Rizzo. Excuse me. And so they appointed a manager for the rest of the year. Well, it turns out they appointed a former Yankee and a big favorite of Susan's and myself. It's a reserve infielder who was on ball clubs, but never a starter. He played very well for the Yankees. His name is Miguel Castro. To us, he's Miggy, and he now gets a chance. He's only hired for the rest of the year. That's what they're doing. And then they look around. But what I'm hoping is that the team plays well, and, Miggy's done a good job. He's been in the game forever. He knows the game. And so who knows if they do well, maybe he'll keep the job. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping for. Now, this is the beginning of the All-Star break. I'll give you more on that. I did want to add something. The Yankees decided to move DJ LeMahieu to the list, and he's not part of the Yankees anymore. And I told this before, but I think it's fair enough to tell it again, and I will tell it. My last couple of years, going up in the plane, carrying my bag, your side bag, which with me, because I read all the time, is heavy because of books. And so one day, last year in the playoffs, I go down the stairs fine. I go up, it's a little tough. And DJ LeMahieu was behind me, and he said, "John, give me your bag." "I'll take your bag." And I said, "No, it's okay. No, give me your bag." So LeMahieu took my bag and carried it up the steps. And then when he got on the plane, he knew where I sat, which is the last row of the plane. You know how when you get a table in a restaurant and it's near the bathroom or it's near the kitchen, you say, "Well, I've got a bad table." Well, on the Yankee plane, I sat next to both. And darned if DJ didn't carry it all the way back and place it on my seat. So forget the fact that he's a two-time batting champion, winning the batting championship in both leagues. Only been done 2 or 3 times. One by Louis Arias recently, and then around 1900, which is long enough, a guy named Ed Delahanty did it. Anyway, we know that DJ was a terrific player. I hope he gets it back and catches some somewhere, but I'll tell you this, he's a really good guy. Very nice, open, honest guy. Well, as I mentioned, they're going to the All-Star break, and there's always all these knocks about All-Star games. They're out. Basketball may go to United States players against the world, which I think would be a heck of a game, but I don't know if they're able to do that yet. Hockey is trying to do that, and they did it last year, and I thought it was fabulous. Football has given up. No one wants to get hurt, and I don't blame them. So they don't play football. The only All-Star game that really is a game is baseball. And I know that a lot of people don't like the fact that the stars only play a few innings and then all the players who are added come in. I kind of like it. I like to see everyone. I get a big kick out of players who never thought they'd be an all-star, but because of an injury or something, they're now an all-star. And I like the fact that they get in the game. I will watch it. It's one All-Star game. You know, you stop watching basketball, and the final score is 200 to 198. And hockey, no one's checking anyone, so the final score is 12-10. So in hockey and in basketball and football, the All-Star game is either gone completely or it's changed to try to get a competitive game. But baseball has a competitive game. No pitcher. David Cohn told me this. He said, you know, the hitters, you know, they're in. They take their swings and, you know, maybe people don't remember. He said, but pitchers, they do not want to give up hits. Also, you're on the mound, you get killed out there. But David's told me it's very different for the pitchers. They take it very seriously, and that the hitters do not. Anyway, the All-Star game will be coming up on Tuesday, and I'm going to tape something tomorrow for the All-Star game on Aaron Judge, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope it works out. I really do. Well, we are at 77 WABC. Our engineers and producers are Eric Williams and Jonas Jackson. I have the same three guys all the time. They're fabulous. They make this show. So Eric and Jonas, thank you for being here. The executive producer is Rich Rattovali, and he is here spreading his good fortune and good fun. And so we'll get back with our first guest, I hope, when we return in just a few minutes here at 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I have a really good buddy for years and years and years ready to go. And now we go to the 77 WABC ActionCarting.com phone line, New York City's premier waste and recycling provider. The guest is Jack O'Connell, better known in our group as Jackie O. Hello, Jack. How you doing?
John, I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Very good. This is a labor of love. We're on for an hour, 4 to 5 on Saturdays, Jack, and that's about my speed now, doing one day. So why don't you begin? We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame in a minute, but why don't you begin and talk about your newspaper past?
Oh, boy. Well, we'll go back to the late 60s. I was living on Long Island, and there was a paper that started there out in Suffolk County. It was run by the Coles Communication people that ran Look magazine, and it was called the Suffolk Sun. And I got a job there as a copy boy, and I was going to community college at the same time. And, a job opened up, and I started working. It was 1968. I was only 19 years old, and I was still a kid.
Boy, were you a kid?
That was where it all began. That paper eventually went out of business. I went up to Rochester, New York, and I covered the AAA team there. Don Baylor was the minor league player of the year, and that's when I first met him. Then I went out to Michigan for 7 years, covering mostly basketball, actually. I was on the Pistons beat. And unfortunately, I lost a job there during a strike, and I came back to the New York area and latched on with the Bergen Record. And that was when I started covering baseball pretty much full time. I went on the Mets beat in 1980, and I covered the Mets for 9 seasons. And then I switched to the New York Daily News, covered the Mets for a couple of more years there. And then, again, a strike was, you may remember, a strike was looming in 89, and it didn't look good, and I wasn't going to go through that again. So the Hartford Courant was interested in hiring me as a baseball writer, so I went there to cover the Yankees. And you and I shared many a cab ride, and and several dinners over the years.
We sure have.
So that's kind of the bibliography, I guess. So yeah, I've been in the business 50 years. This is my 50th year as a member of the Baseball Writers Association. I've been the national secretary, treasurer of the association since 1994, and so I'm the guy that does all the ballot, takes care of all the ballots for our awards, and runs the Hall of Fame election. So I'm still in harness.
What a great career! You know, I love to find out where people have been. It's great in broadcasting because, you know, in broadcasting, everybody moves continually. That's the nature of the business, you know. Tell our listeners about how you're involved in the Hall of Fame. I think it's great.
Well, the baseball writers have been voting on the Hall of Fame since the original since the hall opened. Even before there was a building in 1936, Ford Frick, who was then the president of the National League and had a very strong connection with the BBWA, he had recommended to the Hall that the writers be the electorate, and Commissioner Landis agreed with him. They had been very happy with the fact that we took over the MVP award, the Most Valuable Player award, in 1931, when the owners really didn't want to give it out anymore because they didn't want to pay any bonuses. But he thought it was important. It was an important PR effort, particularly in the off season. So within a couple of years, the MVP award became a major award. And they appreciated how the baseball writers did that. So that was how we got the Hall of Fame election in '36. And I started. My first election was 1995, and our old friend Jeff Idelson, who Jeff and I had been very close during his time with the Yankees. I was covering, and he was the PR guy. He had left the Yankees to be the public relations director for the World Cup when it was here in 1994, and then he was hired by the Hall of Fame as their vice president. And the fact that we knew each other and were friendly, and the two of us worked together for years up there, it really, I think, helped cement the relationship the baseball writers had with the Hall of Fame. So, in fact, as we're speaking, I just sent them the upcoming 2026 ballot. The process actually begins in April. I get a list of the people who, the first criterion for being in the Hall of Fame is you got to play 10 seasons. So I get a list of players. It goes to a committee of writers who whittle it down to a workable number. And the ballot then I send it back up to the Hall. They put together some biographical information, and all of that goes out the Monday before Thanksgiving, and the writers have until New Year's Eve to fill out the ballots and mail them back. So the process, believe it or not, for next year's election has already started. And it's a great, and the reward for this is simple, John. I get to make the phone call to the person who gets elected, and it's the kick everybody thinks it probably is. It's a treat to be able to tell CC Sabathia or Billy Wagner, Ichiro Suzuki, that your dream has come true. It is a special moment.
Well, I can only imagine. I've talked to a lot of the broadcasters who've gone into the Hall, and what a great feeling. Stays with you for the rest of your days. I have a question to ask you.
Sure.
About the Hall of Fame. When it started, the newspapers were everything. Now, that's changed unbelievably. The newspapers are hardly everything now. You think that some broadcasters, the guys who see their team play every single game, you think they should get a vote?
I don't want to get mad at me, but because we've been friends for too long. But I would say no, and I'll tell you why. I think that the conflict of interest, I think, would be an issue. Now, I know plenty of broadcasters. I know that if they were voting, they would vote their conscience. But I think that the perception a lot of people may have is that they would vote for the people that the owner of the ball club they work for tell them to vote for.
Okay, that's fair enough. That really is fair enough.
And as I say, I know plenty of broadcasters, such as yourself and my late friend Ben Scully and some others who I know would have voted their conscience, and still plenty of people out there today. But I think that perception is what would hold it back.
Oh, I think that perception is there. I'm with you. Tell me about this summer and baseball in New York. I had said when I opened up, I think the Mets have a better chance to finish first. I think the Yankees have more holes. Now, that can all change by July 31st. But, the Yankees are going out there looking for a third baseman and looking for bullpen help. And I don't see a lot of teams looking to help the Yankees. So that's why I said, what are your thoughts, Jack?
Well, the way this game is now, it's bullpen ball every night. So
absolutely.
You get to this part of the season, and the bullpens are everybody needs bullpen help. And now that there are more teams that feel that they're in line for a playoff berth, so there are more playoff berths, there aren't that many sellers. So I don't see how, unless a team is willing to give up, like a few years ago when the Brewers traded Josh Hader, which everybody was surprised about. I don't see that there's that much help out there. And for the Yankees situation, they have enough firepower in that lineup that they just should get a defensive-minded third baseman, bat him 8th or 9th, just make sure he makes all the plays. I mean, don't get another Josh Donaldson. I know there's been talk about Suarez. You don't want to butcher at third base. Get some strong defensive guy. I mean, if Cabrera was still active, I would just put him there and let him play there.
Well, I would too. They have that. Barraza is a very good defensive third baseman. He can't hit at all. And I've thought about that, Jack. Put him at third base, tighten up your defense. And as you say, they have so many guys who get home runs. They might be okay.
John, for 100 years, lineups had pitchers batting 9th. And the game was fine. So you get a third baseman that can pick it at third base, bat him 9th. Don't worry about the offense. That's what I think. I think they want to tighten that defense. They've done that in a way by moving Chisholm back over to second base. They have a Gold Glove type first baseman in Goldschmidt. Volpe won a Gold Glove a few years ago. So just tighten up the defense. They seem to have enough firepower. Now, where they're going to get the relief pitching, and I would say the same thing to the Mets, I don't know.
No, I don't know either. As I said, 7 teams make the playoffs from each league. So there are a lot of teams that think, hey, if we can get in, look what can happen. Remember what happened with Washington in 2019. They were 1 out away from being knocked out of the playoffs in that, what did they call that, Jack? The one game gotta get out. They were playing Milwaukee.
Right.
And
the play-in game, the wild card play-in game, yeah.
Yeah, and they got a couple of guys on. They filled the bases against Josh Hader, who you mentioned before, on a walk and a hit batsman and a bloop. And they were about ready to get knocked out of the playoffs, and Juan Soto drilled a shot that actually went past Trent Grisham, scored everybody. Washington won the game, and what do you think happened? They went on to win the World Series.
To win the World Series, yeah.
No, I think that every team kind of thinks that if we get in, who knows? Now,
yeah, exactly.
Now the Mets are gaining back Manaea and Montes, and they now have a name value. This is all name value. They have a very good starting 5, and they have the closer in Diaz. I think the Mets have an awfully good team, and one of the reasons I think that, Jack, is that forget about the top 4 guys. Their top 4 is terrific. But then the other guys, they manage to hit home runs. They don't hit for a high average, but all their young kids, Alvarez and Vientos and Beatty and Mauricio, they hit the ball out. They may not get a lot of hits, but anyway, I think the Mets have a heck of a team.
I think so too. It was good to see Senga get back on the field last night. He pitched 4 shutout innings. So I think their rotation, if Manaea can come back, will be in decent shape. I think they may have overused Garrett a little bit early on, and he's been struggling a little bit, although he pitched pretty well last night. Yeah, I like the Mets' chances. I think there's been a lot of talk about the bottom of their lineup being a little soft, but like you say, they've got some pop. They've got some pop there. McNeil has had a turnaround season. That's been important for them, and I think there's more to come from Soto. Nimmo's having an excellent year. Soto, I don't know what happened the first 6 weeks, but he's turned into more of the player we saw in the Bronx in recent games. Very impressed also with the way Mendoza works with that team. I'm very happy to see him get that job, and I think he's done terrific work for the Mets.
Well, I think so too. And I see every day how he just changes the lineup a little bit, and then he has the top four: Nimmo, Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. Well, that's awfully good. That's awfully good. Phillies are a good team too, so that'll be a good battle the rest of the way. Jack, I thank you for coming on. You can come on anytime you want. And I'm awfully glad you decided to take that job as a newspaper man for the Suffolk News. It didn't work out, but it was a good start, right?
It was a good start, and I have good memories of that time. And it's great talking to you, John. I can tell you that wherever I go, people ask how you're doing, and I'm going to tell them, put on your radio 4 to 5 on Saturdays at WABC, and you'll find out that he's back in harness and he's doing terrific.
Yeah,
so
it's the easiest show of all time with guests like you, and upcoming will be Dan Shaughnessy. Anyway, Jackie O, thank you, and we'll talk soon. We have to have a dinner soon.
You're on. A prime rib somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Okay, thank you.
And that's Jack O'Connell, and we're going to hit a break and pay some bills, and then truly one of the great writers in sports newspapers is coming on, Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe, upcoming in a moment here at 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Okay, we are back, and we have a terrific guest lined up. First, I want to read this from actually the papers of the Boston Globe. Boston Globe sports columnist Dan Shaughnessy was inducted into the National Sports Media Association's Hall of Fame on Monday at a ceremony in Greensboro, North Carolina. Shaughnessy became the 8th member of the Globe sports staff to be inducted into NSMA's Hall of Fame, the most of any newspaper. I'm going to read you the names. No wonder I love the Boston Globe. Jackie McMullen, Leslie Gisser, Bob Ryan, Peter Gammons, Lee Montville, Will McDonough, and Bud Collins, with whom I did actually play tennis once. A terrific guy. Well, Danny, that's an impressive list of names.
Well, thank you, John. Nice to be here. And, yeah, I was very blessed to grow up reading a lot of those guys and then have them as teammates. Most of us were all there together in the 1980s, and I'm still clinging to it. You know what it's like to work into your later years, still doing the job. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, you're young. I'm going to keep on. I'm doing a kid at Jack O'Connell. I'm doing this 1-hour show 1 day a week, which I think is about my speed. So anyway, one reason, there are many reasons. One reason I have a subscription to the Boston Globe, I think that and the New York Post sports sections are the two best sports sections I've read. And I love to read, so I get a chance to read Dan a whole lot. Well, one thing is happening in Boston, and you're never shy about giving your opinions, but all of a sudden, out of the blue, the Boston Red Sox are in the pennant race.
Yeah, this is unexpected for the Sox to be. I mean, they played so poorly for a couple months, and as we speak, they're in the second inning of the game where they're attempting to win their 9th straight game. Crochet is starting today. He's one of the best pitchers in the American League this year, so they got a shot to win 9 straight going into the final day before the break, and they're finally 5 or 6 games over 500. It's the longest winning streaks in 4 years, and kind of nice to see them finally achieving what we thought they were going to be in spring training. I mean, it was a rare year. There was optimism about them coming in, and then they fell flat and played very poorly the first 2-3 months.
Well, I think what's amazing, and you can pat Alex Cora on the back, they've been without Bregman, and then they traded away in that odd deal Rafael Devers, and it looks like Cora is using just spare parts, getting up from the minor leagues. The kids have come up, and I think he's done a fabulous job. What are your thoughts?
No, it's true. Some of the lineups are very curious. I mean, Abraham Toro's hitting third on a regular basis. A guy named Rami Gonzalez. They got Navarez, the catcher they got from the Yankees, has played very well. He's been the regular cleanup hitter. So it's just not the thumper kind of lineup that we're used to seeing in Boston. But it's been effective. And John, they were, we know there's a lot of bad teams in baseball. There's a lot of mediocrity in baseball, but a couple of real bad ones. And the Sox came up against the Nationals in D.C. last weekend, who looked to me like they were quitting. It was so bad that they fired their manager and general manager before the Red Sox got out of town after a 3-game sweep. It was just a complete rollover. And then the Sox got Colorado after that, which is playing on a pace that could be the worst team in 125 years. So that gave them the first 6, which was, nice. And then they've beaten the Rays in 2 straight, really thrilling 1-run games coming into this afternoon. So playing better competition now, still winning.
Well, and Tampa is the team that they have now passed. And the Yankees lost today, so the Red Sox are only 3 back on the loss side of the Yanks. And they're playing Tampa, and Tampa has now lost as many games as Boston. So the Red Sox have come up a long way. Is the league great? No, not at all. And that includes the teams in our division.
Right.
But, you only can play who you're scheduled to play.
For sure. And they, like I said, it's still not easy to win 6 games in a row, even when you're playing Washington and Colorado. It did help to have that competition, but to see them playing well, carry it forward against Tampa is nice. And 1-run games have been a problem for them. So again, it's just a better demonstration. A lot of things coming together for them right now. Like you said, getting Bregman back, some of the good young talent they have. This kid Rafael has been on fire. Game-winning walk-off home run last night. Anthony looks like the real deal right up from the minors. Story's finally playing like the guy they thought they were getting 4 years ago. And they've just got, better starting pitching and better lineup depth than we thought.
Dan, can you enlighten us about the whole Rafael Devers situation? Why did it happen? Did it begin early in spring training? And what was the reason that they dealt him away? Well,
I mean, everybody's got different histories on this one, and he's been 8-9 years a very, very good hitter, and anyone who watches the Yanks knows this because he has just been a Yankee killer. And going back to when he turned around Chapman throwing 101 like 8 or 9 years ago. So he's been that guy and just, a really a way above average hitter. And third baseman, he was not the worst, but he was insufficient. So this year they brought in Bregman, which is an upgrade defensively at that position in a big way. And they asked Devers to DH. He didn't want to do it. They finally cajoled him into doing it. And then right away, with their first baseman, Casas got hurt. And they asked him about playing first, and he said no. And I'm not a fan of that. I mean, you're on a team. He's making a huge amount of money, 10-year contract, $330 million. You got to do what they ask you to do. And he said no. So the owner flew out to Kansas City to try and talk to him, and he just wasn't having it. And there's really no excuse for that. So it's indefensible, and he did that. But what the team did was kind of curious too. They basically gave him away just to get out from under the contract, which I'm never a fan of as a baseball fan. I want to see some return when you trade an asset like that, even when he is misbehaving or not doing what he's told. I just thought Boston came away with no help for this year, and they got out from under a $300 million payroll obligation, which is great for the owner, but fans don't get dividends on that. And I just thought regardless of how he's pouting or underperforming. He was their best hitter at the time they dealt him. And because they're playing the bad teams, they've been able to overcome that. But I still think when you deal a guy like that, you better get something that'll help your team. They did not do that. So I was not a fan of the deal, and still not. But they are winning, so everybody's happy here right now.
Well, I certainly agree with you about Devers. I look out for the players. I'm on the players' side all the time. But there isn't any reason why he wouldn't play first base. And there wouldn't any reason why he wouldn't DH. As you say, he's already hit it. He's making phenomenal money. He'll never have to work, a day in his life once he starts playing baseball. So I agree with you there. And I really don't understand. Of course, they wanted to get rid of all that money. Why they let him go for, no one? Why did they let Mookie Betts go? Look what they got back from Mookie Betts. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, the Betts thing was just they were not willing to compete for his services, and they got, three players that, Verdugo was one. You got to look at him for a year. Connor Wong, who's knocked in one run this year, and the other guy, Jeter Downs, is out of baseball. So they got really zero in return for Betts and got out from under the obligation to pay him. And when you're the Boston Red Sox, you got to pay the best players, and that deal will never be forgivable, in my view. It's a big market team refusing, not competing for the services of a player. That's the cost of doing business. And he's produced, as we know, he's won 2 World Series. He's been top 5 MVP guy, and his team guy who does play a million positions over there. He's going to the Hall of Fame. So that's one that fans really regret, and ownership. It troubles me when I see them do that. But that's sort of a bad tone back in 2020, and since then they've finished last 3 times and played 500 ball for coming on 5-6 years. So unacceptable for the Boston Red Sox.
Yes, really, because Mookie Betts is a Hall of Fame player. You can look at him, and just by looking at him, you can see he can do everything. That he has such athleticism, whether he's fielding or hitting or running. Anyway, Dan Shaughnessy wrote a great column. It was a couple of months ago. And Danny, it's when you appointed yourself as the commissioner of sports.
Wow. And
how you would change things. So I sent it to Susan, and she called back and said, I agree with everything he said. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We have to hit a break and, pay some bills.
Sure.
And this is, as you well know, the 77 WABC ActionCarting.com phone line. New York City's premier waste and recycling provider. Back with Dan Shaughnessy in a moment here on 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The John Sterling Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're talking to the outstanding columnist of the Boston Globe, Dan Shaughnessy. Before I go on to the column, which I adored, I hope you can remember some of it. But one thing about the Boston Globe, I'm a newspaper guy. I love newspapers. In fact, Danny, I was in a cab in Boston several years ago. This is not last couple of years. The years go by me. I have no idea how long. 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I always bring reading material wherever I go. And so I'm in the back of this cab and I'm reading a newspaper. We get to a light and this cab driver turns around and he says, we're outdated. And I said, what do you mean? He said, we're the last people to read a newspaper.
Yeah.
But the Boston Globe is doing as good as ever. Is that true?
Well, I don't think any paper is doing, as good as ever. We're closer to what we were 20 years ago than most publications, and I appreciate what you said about us in the New York Post, because I would concur with that, John. I think the two papers that are still kind of covering things, traveling, throwing multiple bodies at stories, I think the Post and the Globe are the two that are closer to what they were 20, 30, 40 years ago when it was, everybody was competing really hard. That's kind of gone away. It's evolved. I understand things change. It's not my cup of tea, but that's the way things evolve. We still have other platforms the young people get their information on, but the old days of the paper have faded, and it's just a very small group of older people that read the daily printed products. So I'm one of them. You're one of them, and those were great days. But I appreciate what you said about the Globe, and I miss those days, and I feel like we got to do it when it was really the pinnacle. I remember being in New York covering the '77 World Series, and just being so thrilled with all of when Newsday came into the city. It was a big deal. You could get Newsday finally, and having the Post and the Daily News and the Times and Newsday, just going down and getting all four at the train station every day. I'm just like you, John. That's what I do when I travel.
Well, two things. I hope I don't forget them. When I grew up, there were 6 newspapers in New York.
Sure.
Oh, would I wish there were 6? Oh, that would be great. And by the way, I would attempt anyway every day to read them both. And Danny, I sleep late, and I'll get up and drive somewhere for brunch, and I take the newspapers with me. And you know what? It's as favorite a part of the day as I have. I sit there stuffing my face and reading sports. How can it be better than that?
Well, I'm with you, John. I get up early. You're lucky. You're a blessed guy. I can sleep late. I can't do that. But I get up. I go down to 711 Oak Square, Brighton, and I pick up the New York Times, Daily News Post, Boston Herald, Boston Globe, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal. That's 7 newspapers, and I bring them home, and I enjoy my morning with that. So we're doing the same thing, and 200 miles apart.
Yes, indeed. Now, what do you remember as commissioner of sports?
Oh boy, that was a while ago. I know that the things that people we all look back and just things like this year's All-Star game, for instance. Are they going to just wear their home uniforms, or are they still going to have All-Star uniforms? I mean, that the kinds of things that don't make it better. We're the old guys baying at the moon. I understand that, but I'm watching the Red Sox on TV right now. They're wearing their City Connect yellow uniforms. There's no red on the entire Red Sox uniform today, or when they wear their green ones. And it's all about merch and selling merch. But I like the Yankees should never get away from the tuxedo home white they have. Same with the Detroit Tigers. Same with the Boston Red Sox. So, and the Celtics, you can't see the Celtics in their home whites anymore. It's always some combo or black or dark green or no. Home team wears white. Visiting team wears their colors. End of story. So that's the kind of thing. It's an easy old guy take when you get into that. But yes, I am of that. And I mean, John, we could go all day. We want pitchers to throw complete games, things that aren't going to happen again. We want people to move the runner over, shorten up the 2 strikes. Just so many things that have just been phased out of the game, and it's not for the better in my view.
Well, it's like you're reading my mind. I'm getting scared. I think everything. One thing that Danny said that you'll get a kick out of, because I think everyone sees this. He said, when a guy misses a foul shot, there will be there'll be no more congratulating. He missed.
That's a weird one. Yeah, everybody's compelled to go, high five, dap, whatever they're doing after the miss. No, wait till you make it on that one, John. They're changing a rule in basketball to incentivize the heave at the end of the quarter. Guys won't do it because it suppresses their shooting percentage.
Right.
Even though it helps the team, that you might hit 1 out of 20, but no, it makes their percentage go down. So they've had to change the rule, and they're working on this in the summer league, and I expect it to be part of the NBA moving forward. It's a team shot. So when you take that heave at 1 second left at the half from half court, then it doesn't count as an 0 for 1 for you. It's 0 for 1 for the team. Oh. So I mean, how pathetic is that they have to legislate players to do what they should do to help the team, but won't do because it's hurting their 3-point percentage.
And they're making in the millions.
Oh my God! So there's 12 guys making $50 million a year in the NBA this year.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And Dan, how do franchises like Portland, I guess New Orleans, but the small franchises, Oklahoma City just won the championship. They're going to give Shea $60-70 million a year. Anyway, how do they afford it? The TV deals are pretty good. The social media has given them new
new income streams, obviously the gambling partnerships, et cetera. Because, I mean, when these teams, the capital gains on franchises, I mean, the Celtics were purchased for $330 million and just sold for $6.7 billion, whatever it was, and the Lakers went for $11 billion. So the capital gains are always there when you own franchises. They don't go backwards. Working year to year, you look at some of the stuff that you just cited, and it's hard to imagine how you operate in the black on a year-to-year basis, as good as the TV deals may be, et cetera. It's regular season NBA is not really for me, but the young people seem to support it, and tickets are, as we know, out of sight, and people are there. So go figure.
Well, you saw a good player who had his best year, Frank Cornett, and he's a backup and a banger, and I forget the team. You'll be able to tell me. He just signed a contract. He left Boston. He had a good year. He capitalized on it, which he should do. And here's a guy who's, basically a backup. I think he's making $15 million a year. Yeah,
that's sort of the cost of doing business in the NBA. I mean, the Celtics, they've been gutted really because of the second apron and all the penalties that are paid for the high payroll, that they were not operating in the black on a year-to-year basis, and new ownership doesn't plan to foot that bill. So they were forced. They traded Porzingis to Atlanta. They traded Drew Holiday to Portland, which he wasn't happy about. Luke Cornett, as you say, signed as a free agent. Horford's not going to come back. And we've seen, and Tatum, rolled his Achilles in the finals against the Knicks. So they're down 5 or 6 of their rotation right out of the gate. So the team is gutted, and they've gone to the big middle of the Eastern Conference.
I'm glad you corrected me. I don't know why I said Frank Cornett, Luke Cornett.
What's the difference? Luke Frank, he's just another big white guy.
and he's making, I'm telling you, I'm amazed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yes, more than that. What do you think of the Celtics? First of all, I want to hit you with this. I've seen this a lot. You know why Boston lost those 2 games to New York at the Garden? Because they did nothing but take threes and miss them. And that allowed,
right.
Oh, it kills me when you see a guy pass up a layup, drill it outside, and have the guy miss the shot. And I think that's why Boston lost those 2 games.
Yeah, the analytics people have convinced them. The percentages say if you can take all threes and you make a smaller percentage, you still score more points. So that's the motivation. Unless they have a fast break layup, it's pretty much just kick it back out for the 3. Boston will take 50, 60 a game. They led the NBA with the record threes this year. And as you say, they went down with that. The 3, in my view, should be the last resort. And, when nothing else works. And when you have a better team, don't take threes, because you can have the night where you missed. And it happened to them twice. They blew 20-point leads twice against the Knicks, lost 2 home games. And that was the series. When you have the better team, play basketball. Give and go, pick and roll, do things, to match up and take advantage of your superior roster, which they had against the Knicks. And they squandered that by taking all threes and missing them.
And also, when the other team is coming back, if you get 2s, that will really stop their comeback. I saw a game this year. Minnesota was at Oklahoma City, and they were down by 20 going to the last quarter. And Chris Finch, the coach of Minnesota, made a decision. He put 2 men on Shea out on the court, not waiting for him to put the ball on the floor.
Yeah.
2 guys. Okay. And so the ball is then thrown around. They have an extra guy, and they took threes. And they missed every 3. Minnesota caught him at the buzzer and won in overtime. So, but of course, us talking like this is like 2 old guys in the park.
It is.
They're not, the Yankees don't bunt runners over. Susan and I kidded when they put that Manfred man rule in, the ghost runner.
Yeah.
You figure it wouldn't go past 10 innings because you bunt them over and somehow you get them in. But they don't do that.
Yeah, it's been interesting with the ghost runner, and I'm glad they don't do it in the postseason.
In fact, Susan told me this. Remember there was a game, Danny, a 'a few years ago, I think Seattle, It wasn't Seattle. It was Cleveland. Cleveland and Tampa. And they may have gone 12 or 13 innings. And in one of the breaks between the innings, Tito Francona yelled across to Kevin Cash. He said, "Hey, Cashy, you want to put a runner on second?" And that was in the playoffs where they don't use that.
He loves to tease Kevin Cash. That's always been a big thing with them.
Well, it's odd that things like that bother us. You think they bother people like Core and Boone? I mean, they were brought up in their families with baseball.
Yeah, I see those guys. They've sort of adapted, and they know they have to. If you don't adapt, you go away. And with today's players, they're coddled and they're spoiled, and you can't no more tough love with them. And so you don't see, no more Dallas Green walking in just ripping the players. That's gone away. So everybody's too sensitive to that, so it doesn't fly anymore, and they're not used to it, and you just don't have it. So I think that in order to survive as long as Tito has and as Kevin Cash is going to, and Aaron Boone, they've adapted and kind of do things that their maybe father or grandfather wouldn't have done.
I would think. Dan, thank you very much for coming on. I would love you to come on soon again, so, I'll establish the lines of communication. Anyway, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure. I get the pleasure of reading you in the Globe. Thank you.
Well, it's my honor to be on the radio with John Sterling. Take care, John. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Well, we have to get going, right? Upcoming, Vinny Madunio will be here with all of his brilliance, and I will see you next Saturday. Thanks to Eric Williams, Jonas Jackson, and Rich Raptabali. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to The John Sterling Show. You can hear The John Sterling Show Saturdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?